Okay, we'll try this again. This is the third time trying to get this video done. Good day. I'm doing something different. I have a script wrote up, and I'm going to read the script, and then we'll put pictures to it, or I've got some graphs, that type of thing, and see how it goes. This video is about, well, partially about why I was absent from YouTube recently, and what I found out over my years of health issues. I have not been healthy my entire life. As a child, it usually showed up as emotional meltdowns. I remember a couple of times having doctor visits because of what I called dizzy but not dizzy. It was a weird head feeling that my child self could figure no other way to describe it. A couple of times nausea and vomiting when I wasn't otherwise sick. The first chronic situation showed up when I was about 20. I was diagnosed with IBS at the time. Over the next 4 years, it steadily progressed until I had to be right beside a washroom at all times. But the need to urinate was worse than the IBS. That was every 10 to 15 minutes sometimes. By eating a restricted diet of raw vegetables, I got healthy enough to endure the flight from Vancouver to Gander. Okay, put your butt down. Yes, you can sit there. Now, where was I? At home, with more homegrown and wild food, the IBS and frequent urination was a roller coaster ride. I tried to go to work in Edmonton, and the symptoms increased again. Back home again, I took a university course, a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science Biology stream. I was thinking, I love nature and being in the forest. If I could get a field technician job as an environmental scientist, when IBS struck, I could just go behind the nearest tree. I finished that course and went to work as a fisheries observer. Liked the job, actually. Hurricane force winds in a 35-foot fishing boat was a little unnerving, mind you. Or would you just lay there? Then the muscle spasms started. Many times I thought whatever is causing it, the pain itself was enough to kill me. And the time my lungs decided to not work for a few seconds, couldn't suck in one molecule of air. Going to the doctor over and over, you get pills for this symptom and pills for that symptom. I said to her, it's like playing whack-a-mole, isn't it? Beat down one symptom only to have something else, usually worse, pop up. Ended up having another suicidal meltdown. I needed a land-based job. Found myself in BC again with a job that would last about a year. It was there that sudden fatigue episode started. One second I'd be feeling perfect, the next second I couldn't lift the edge trimmer. Losing that job, I got a fly-in job. Woke up one morning with face and hands covered in blood. No memory of what happened. After 3 more episodes of unexplainable nighttime injuries, I had a grand mal seizure in the hospital waiting room. Seizure disorder. So that was the end of that job. Told the doctor, you had to find out what's wrong with me. No more of this take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning. They still didn't find out. Ended up on a double the normal dose of meds to get the seizures under control. But I still made another poke at it. took a landscape maintenance job in Surrey. Made it through 2 seasons before the IBS started becoming a serious issue again. Got laid off for the winter, and I said, I can't do this. Back to Newfoundland and find a way to fix the health issues before I go to work again. I think it was 2018, the year I started YouTube, when the seizures started again. One every 10 months or so. Then there was 3 in 2022, 4 in 2023, 6 in 2024, 6 in the first half of 2025, along with the increasing fatigue, chronic pain, and IBS issues. It was time for another suicidal meltdown. So that's why I was absent from YouTube. 6 weeks in the hospital psych ward. While I was there, the doctor suggested I could be neurodiverse. The term is usually used to refer to abnormal personality traits. But with my biology degree, I thought, neurodiverse, eh? That's not actually saying personality diverse. It's neurodiverse. I know exactly what's wrong. You see, most any trait in a species can be graphed as a line between a minimum and maximum range. While there are variations of the graph, the basic form is a bell shape. We have our scale or range along the bottom and the percent of the population on the y-axis. Usually we think of traits as hair color, height, skin tone, etc. Noticeable physical expression of our genetics. However, variations in the nervous system are also genetic. This includes personality and tolerance to toxins. The highest point of the curve is, given the conditions of the niche the population has evolved to take advantage of, the optimum expression for that trait. The further you are from the optimum, the more or greater negative effects you will experience. This is the reason the percentage drops off either side of the peak. I had known for a few years that it was something ubiquitous in store-bought food, but could never pin down an ingredient. So after the hospital stay, I went back to just buying raw ingredients and cooking from scratch. It didn't work. In fact, I got quite sick one time from just eating. I got a full muskmelon with the peel still on, so I had to peel it. I ate the muskmelon, and that gave me quite the IBS reaction. So I had to research this thing down further. The trait of tolerance to toxins. Over the past 50 years, there have been a lot of water-soluble pesticides and herbicides used on conventionally grown food. None is more popular than glyphosate. Glyphosate was first synthesized in 1950s pharmaceutical research in Germany. It is toxic to humans and a suspected carcinogen. The level of toxicity varies quite a bit in the reports I found online. In 1970, Monsanto discovered the chemical was useful as a herbicide, and in 1974, used it to make their famous herbicide Roundup. By 2016, 8.6 billion kilograms of glyphosate, the active ingredient, not the herbicide powder containing it, had been applied in commercial agriculture globally. In 2014 alone, farmers sprayed enough glyphosate to apply 1/2 kilogram per hectare over all cropland worldwide. I think most of us have heard of Roundup Ready wheat. In 2016, genetically engineered herbicide-tolerant crops accounted for 56% of glyphosate use. Those stats are from the National Library of Medicine. From Science Direct, I find this. In the 3-year period from 2001 to 2003, there were 13,318 reports to America's Poison Control Center relating to glyphosate exposure, not ingestion. 3,622 involved children under 6 years old. There was a moderate outcome for 291 patients, so that's 2% of the patients showed a moderate poisoning. Life-threatening outcome for 18 and death for 5. That's for exposure. For glyphosate ingestion, mortality rates run between 8 to 16%. Of 377 cases reported, 38 died. Genie Food, a personalized nutrition company founded in 2018, has an article on their website called "Glyphosate is Dangerous. Here's how to avoid eating it." They say that by 2014, the annual use of glyphosate in the USA alone was estimated at 113.4 million kilograms. That article lists the top 40 worst crops with respect to glyphosate residue and links to a full list of foods certified glyphosate free. I'll leave a link in the description. Of the top 40 list, they include ingredients found in almost all processed foods and the most popular fruits like soy, apple, corn, wheat, and their derivatives. Another confirmation of my long suspicion that water-soluble pesticides and herbicides will be absorbed into the crops as well as the weeds came over the past couple of years. There have been several reports of composted manure killing some garden plants. It was traced to a persistent herbicide used on alfalfa fields. So the herbicide was sprayed on the field during the growing period. After several days of dry weather, alfalfa was cut and then fed to animals meant for meat destined to the grocery store. After being digested by the animal and the manure being composted, there was still enough herbicide to damage crops where the manure was used as fertilizer. Logic suggests a portion of the herbicide would have been absorbed by the animal and would end up in the meat. So the next step was to find out how much herbicide can be detected in human urine. In urine, because for total nervous system effects, not just IBS, it would have to be absorbed into the bloodstream, not just passing through the digestive system. A Guardian Media Group reported that a CDC study found 81.6% of urine samples in the USA had detectable levels of glyphosate. Quote from there, "People of all ages should be concerned, but I'm particularly concerned for children," said Phil Langan, who worked for years at the CDC and the EPA and now directs the Program for Global Public Health and the Common Good at Boston College. Children are more heavily exposed to pesticides than adults because pound for pound, they drink more water, eat more food, and breathe more air. Also, children have many years of future life when they can develop diseases with long incubation periods, such as cancer. This is particularly a concern for the herbicide glyphosate." Unquote. From PubMed and the National Library of Medicine, I find that a study in France found glyphosate in 99% of urine samples. Take note now, in France you never far from a farm, so you get it in the air and drinking water. As mentioned earlier, direct exposure to glyphosate can be fatal. What about low-level poisoning? From the Medline Plus website, symptoms of glyphosate poisoning include abdominal cramps, anxiety, breathing difficulty, coma, blue lips or fingernails, diarrhea, dizziness, drowsiness, headache, irritation in the mouth and throat, low blood pressure, nausea and vomiting, weakness, kidney failure, slow heart rate. I have high blood pressure and heart rate, not low. I've had blue toenails. I don't remember blue fingernails. So I have been suffering with every symptom of glyphosate poisoning for the last 30 years. Not a coma, but grand mal seizures. Not kidney failure, but my kidneys have been working overtime, hence the frequent urination. So that brings us back to this graph. This is an example from the basic normal distribution to show the population tolerance level. I chose the environmental working group number of 160 parts per billion as the safe limit for direct consumption. The EWG also sets the daily maximum at 10 micrograms. So at 160 parts per billion concentration, that would make 63 grams of food to reach your daily maximum. Some people will be able to tolerate much more, but some people's tolerance will be a lot less. I would be one of the ones on a lot less, and maybe among the 2% of people with the moderate outcomes. The EPA has set the acceptable limits for herbicide residue in oats at 30 parts per million. That's 30 micrograms of glyphosate in 1 gram of oats. In fact, the EWG report published on August 15, 2018 revealed that glyphosate was present in 43 of 45 samples of products made with conventionally grown oats. Almost 75% of the samples had glyphosate levels higher than 160 parts per billion. So most of the population are consuming far above the EWG's recommended limit. Most people will not associate their health issues with glyphosate poisoning, and if medication will suffice to combat it, that's as far as the testing will go. However, there's a significant section of the population that are affected, and medication will not be enough to keep the poisoning effects at bay. These are the so-called invisible diseases. 2% of the US population, that would be more than 6.8 million people. I haven't done a full proper scientific investigation. I only trace my symptoms to something ubiquitous in the conventional food system. And my current conclusion is that all evidence points to glyphosate poisoning. I also believe that most unexplained neurological issues are likely caused by ubiquitous poisons in our everyday lives. Do I just want to fight the system? It's damn right I want to fight the system. It's ruined my entire life. But it's not to fight the system, actually. There's millions of people, like I said, 6.8 million people in USA alone, being negatively affected because they can't avoid the poison food system. Their health is the reason I decided I must make this video. And so, this is one video I would especially like for you to share. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.